Welcome to Course Grinder's third C++ tutorial. In the first two videos, we saw how we can make our program's output values to the screen. And that's great and all, but it's going to get really boring really quickly. We want to be able to interact with our programs. We want to be able to input values into our programs, allow our programs to work with those values, and then output something to our screen. An example of that is a calculator. You can input the values 1 plus 3 into your calculator. You'll press equals. It will send the value to the calculator. It's going to work with those values, and eventually it's going to send out the final value of 3 to your screen. So we want to see how we can design something like that. So we're actually going to just go ahead and build a simple calculator. This calculator is going to be adding two numbers together. So we're going to start off with those same two lines that we saw before. We'll start off with our preprocessor command, which is going to write include with a hashtag before it, then iostream in triangle braces. Next, we'll define our namespace by writing using namespace std, and you're going to end it off with a semicolon. Now, these two lines are going to allow our compiler to know exactly how it should interpret the code that we're going to be writing. Next, we're going to make our main function. We're going to be working with integer data in our main function, and we're going to be expecting an integer back. So you're going to write integer before your main function. You're going to write main, which is the name of your function. You can normally name your functions whatever you want, but not the main function. The main function is going to be the spine of your program, and your program needs to be able to know exactly where the spine is. You can't just go and call it something else. It's going to get lost. Then you can open up and close a bracket, and that's going to indicate that it is a function, and you can open up a curly bracket. That curly brace is going to be the opening of the body of your function, and you can close it off later. Everything inside of these two braces here are going to belong to the main function. Now before we get started, we want to write our return 0 and put the semicolon at the end. That return is going to allow your function to know if it gets all the way down there to the end where the return is and it returns the value of 0, which is an integer, it will tell your main function that you successfully got to the end without any errors. Everything is great. So we're going to write everything in between it. We'll make a little bit more space. And we're going to make some variables to start off here. Now in the last video we saw that we were defining our variables and assigning numerical values to them by writing things like integer of x is equal to 1, and then every time you write x it's actually 1. But we're not going to do that this time because we want our user who's going to be using our calculator to be able to define what those variables are going to be and actually assign numerical values to them. So we're going to just start off by writing integer of x, because we are going to be using integer data, and you're just going to put a semicolon at the end there, no equal sign. Now we're doing this because we need to reserve some space on our memory for the integer and the variable x, which is going to be an integer. And you're going to be getting that at a later date, but you want to reserve the space for it right now. It's going to be rude if you don't reserve space. Next, you're going to write integer of y, and you're going to do the exact same thing. And we're going to do one last one. We're going to write integer sum, and you're going to put the semicolon at the end of them all there. Now x, y, and sum are all integers and they have not been defined yet. They're going to be defined later. So now we can get to the actual part of building our calculator. We're going to make a little bit of an interface so the user knows exactly what the program wants it to do. So we'll start off by outputting something to the screen, a welcome message or telling it what to do. So we're going to do like we've seen in the last video. We're going to write cout, which is going to be our output. We're going to put two arrows pointing towards cout, and in quotation marks we'll write welcome. Please input your first value, and put those in quotations because we want that message to appear as is. And we are going to put two more lines, two more arrows, and we'll put end L for end line, and we'll put a semicolon at the end of it right there. So that's the first message that's going to be sent to our user. Next, we're going to want to have an input. Now, if cout is an output, it's only logical to assume that cin is the input. So you're going to write cin. Now, one thing you need to remember, and this is a little trick, and like I said before, you need to know exactly which direction your arrows are going to be pointing. When you have cin, the arrows are always pointing away from it, and when you have cout, the arrows are going to be pointing towards it. So like I said in the previous video, a little trick to remember this is your input is going to be the start of the journey, and the arrows are going to go away from the input, and they're going to travel all the way to the output, and they're going to go into the output. So the arrows are always pointing away from your input, and they're always pointing towards your output. Just a little thing to remember. So now your user needs to input something into your system, and you're just going to write x and then a semicolon to end the line. This means that whatever they input is going to be assigned x, or the x will be assigned to that number. Next, we'll do the exact same thing. We're going to make for the next message for the next variable, please input your second variable or second value. End line. Like there. Now it's going to prompt them to do the second one, and we're going to do the exact same thing with y. We're just going to write the variable y, and we're going to put a semicolon at the end. So whatever value they put for x, that will be what x means from now on, and whatever value they put for y, that will be what y means from now on. Now we need to add those together. We know that we defined the variable sum to be an integer up there. Now we need to actually, perform a little bit of calculation. So we're going to say that the sum variable is actually going to be equal to x plus y. And we're going to put a semicolon at the end there to end off the line. So now you're going to put something in for x, you're going to put something in for y, and then it's going to add them together. But now we need to actually give the user that final value. I mean, how good is a calculator if they actually don't know what the final value is? So we're going to output it to the screen, and you're going to write your final value is, or you can write your sum is. So we can write that instead. Your sum is, and you're going to put a space there between the is and the quotation mark, and that's going to give us a little bit of space to work with. You'll see exactly what's going to happen, or else everything would be bunched together because your quotations will appear as is. So if you don't put the space there, then it's going to say your sum is, and then the sum is actually going to be attached to the is, so it's going to be a little bit messy. We're going to make it look nice, It's only us looking at this, but we got to still make it look nice. Now you're going to write sum to make sure it displays your variable, your variable sum, which is going to be the addition of the x and y variable. And then you can write end line, and then you can put the semicolon at the end of there. And that will be our entire calculator. Looks really simple, right? We can make this come a little bit closer here to see exactly how little code was needed to make this calculator. You have your variables here. You've reserved your memory for these variables. You make your little prompts here for the user. You have them input values for the variable, and everything works perfectly. And now we can actually take a look to make sure it actually works. You're going to press your build and run button. You're going to see the build is successful, and you can see right down here we have our calculator. Welcome. Please input your first value. Okay, don't mind if I do. I'm going to input the value 5. Okay, please input your second value. This is awesome. I'm going to input the value 3. And it's going to say your sum is 8. And it's going to say the program has ended with the exit code 0. So that's perfect. It gave us exactly what we're looking for. We put 5 in, it added that to 3, it assigned the 5 to the x. We put 3 in, it assigned the 3 to the y, sorry. A little bit stumbling there. And then it added them both together, and that's your sum. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We created our first calculator, and I'll see you guys back for the next tutorial.